its air very soon. As I say, this is the spiritual discussion program, and the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And with me now is my colleague Gregory. Gregory, how are you, and how is the weather where you are?
Well, it's very bright. One is fine. Very warm.
Very warm. Yes, here too in London, southeast London, is really bright and warm today. In fact, yesterday as well. So it looks like summer is here. Well, we say that, and then a few days later it changes. So, listeners, as I said, this is the spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is division and unity. Division and unity. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the readers again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with the matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. or the arrogant, and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with seven seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we're discussing tonight is division and unity. Division and unity. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, Gregory, you know I like to look up the meaning of the words on the topic in the dictionary. So here we go. Let's see what we find. First word is division. I've got two meanings given there. The first one, the action of separating something into parts, or the process of being separated. And then they give an example of that, the division of the land into small fields. So, Gregory, what would you say about this definition? How good is this one?
Thanks. As with everything, it is more the intuitive picture which an expression presents. That is the nearest that the individual may use. So in that case, from what you read out, you said if you read it again, I will stress on some things.
Okay. The action of separating something into parts. Or
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
go on. Yeah.
that makes it very clear. Separating something, so there must have been a thing, and in putting it into parts already tells you that for that thing to hold, it is made up of certain parts, and it is these parts that form a union to hold it together. That is the picture that arises from that statement you just read.
Okay. Yes, that's good. It's good at sort of, I was going to use the word analyze, but to look at it, let's say, in that way. So, right. The second part of that was definition was. So let me repeat the whole thing. The action of separating something into parts, or the process of being separated. So I think that's just another way of putting that, really.
Yeah, I think the first part gives a more comprehensive picture.
Okay. Now there is a second definition for the word division, and this one is in the dictionary, a difference or disagreement between two or more groups, typically producing tension. And they give an example. A growing sense of division between North and South. So let me repeat that. A difference or disagreement between two or more groups, typically producing tension. And the example is a growing sense of division between North and South. How is this definition?
That is only used. It's only used as a pun. Um, when you use something as a pun, you're presenting a picture where, similar to the picture he's just presented, where you have the different parts, but there is no communications or no relations or disagreement between the different parts. So what you just read out is more like a pun, but it doesn't give that picture, which should be very helpful.
Thank you for that, Greg. I didn't quite follow the word. I think you said pun. Is it pun? Is that the
Yes,
word?
yeah, pun.
Okay, it is pun. Okay, I was getting a little bit unsure in my head. Okay, so okay, I'm trying to think of that here. All right. You know what I'm seeing, although I should go not bring it up so quickly. You can, let's say, have the word division. It doesn't necessarily mean a negative thing, because when you say separation into parts, yes, it's just putting them into parts. Doesn't mean that's a bad thing, or necessarily it's a good thing. It's just you could say a neutral thing. You're doing, making it breaking, or breaking maybe might also have like a negative idea in it, but just separating into parts. So part, it was made of many parts, and now it is being put into the different parts. So not necessarily this is a negative, you could say, outcome, which the disagreement, you could say that is a negative thing, producing tension. We saw that in that example there. So I will say that is a particular one angle. It's not the full picture there. What do you say about that, Gregory? Because, as I say, people can be, let's say, influenced in a particular, or directed into a particular way, if they just take it in that definition.
Well, like I said, most our discussions are based on the laws of creation, the laws of nature. And for anything of building in which there is a goal, the parts working together is what enable them to achieve a holistic picture and come to the fulfillment and get to the goal. Without any relationships between the parts in which they have to share experiences, they are unable to reach that goal. Then what's the essence of a society which hasn't got a goal? And mankind on earth, they have a goal. There are different peoples on earth. All peoples are not the same thing. So you don't have everybody being black or being white or being green or blue, speaking the same language. But the goal of the human personality is to attain to spiritual maturity. And the different parts, the experiences which people have to gather when they incarnate in different bodies, help them to do this. So the goal has to be looked into, which is the key thing. Any other thing where the parts are unable to communicate or are quarrelsome or want to destroy themselves, then that is something else.
Thank you, Gregory. As usual, you put in the context there, because without the context, you could be wandering around aimlessly. And as you mentioned, also the goal. So if you don't have a goal, then surely, let's say, random things can happen, meaningless things even, rather than when you have a goal, then there's something behind what you're doing, a purpose. So thank you for pointing that out. Now, there is another word in our topic. So the topic is tonight division and unity. The other word, big word, let me say, is unity. So let's see what the dictionary tells us about unity. I've got here this meaning. The state of being united, oh dear, or joined as a whole. So, okay, let's look at that one. The state of being united or joined as a whole. I did look up united as well, Gregory. So what do you say? Unity, the joined as the state of being joined as a whole. How is that?
Well, it doesn't really say anything. The state of being joined or united. First, is unity is talking of being united. And what is united? Other than coming together or bringing things together such that they can exchange um, experiences or exchange information and they mature quickly. It's only in such a way that the human spirit will attain to the goal. One should not look at it only in the social aspect. There are many other aspects. Can only unity can provide a framework upon which maturity can be attained.
Thank you for that. I've seen, let's say, a further definition or example given in this dictionary. It says joined together. Now, what happened? They gave an example of unity, and this used this European unity, and they said joined together politically for a common purpose or by common feelings. So the word, where you talked about earlier, goal, here it comes in. So everything, as I'm seeing again, there's a context. You've got to have this context. These words don't stand by themselves. Unity. It is unity about what? Of unity of what? People. Okay, or people to do what? So I think I can. Anything you want to add there, Gregory? I just wanted to say a few things, but anything you would
No,
like
you
to say?
should go ahead. I think what you're
Okay.
saying is in the right direction.
Okay, that's good. Now, so let's look at some, you could say, aspects of division and unity. Now, I'm just trying to see in my research, I've got a few things. Okay, here's a quote from 1 Corinthians 12, chapter 12, verse 25. There may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. Let me read that again. There may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. So I'm not sure, Gregory, if the word body here is representing the one human being's body or the family of the human beings as a body. Sometimes these are metaphors. So let me repeat one more time, Greg, because I was trying to understand it myself. There may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. Is there anything?
This was referring to the early Christians. They referring to themselves to the body of Christ. For those who have accepted the new faith and come together, in coming together, they form the body. And basically, the way they lived, the early Christians, was one for all and all for one. That was how they were able, through their behavior, through their characteristics, they set examples for others to follow. And many were easily swayed in their simplicity, in joining them, in joining that body, coming together for further activities.
Thank you for that. And then I've found, again, with my research, a lot of different sort of angles of the word division or examples of division. So here I have causes and consequences of division from the Bible again. the Bible identifies various causes of division, including pride, conflict, and following false teachings. The consequences of division can include anger, strife, and even destruction. So, Gregory, what I want to actually clarify here, when we started with the dictionary definition, um, it the which was separating the meaning of the word division, which is separating something into parts. That is, I will say, doesn't give any sensing of uh, something bad or negative or even positive. It's not. It's so neutral. And here, this how can I say? Uh, Not definition, but example, which they say from the Bible, identified from the Bible, is this is the causes and consequence of division. Consequences of division is the causes are of division: pride, conflict, following false teachings, and the consequences of division include anger, strife, and destruction. So, what I want to understand, Gregory, is there like a general definition of division, and then there's a biblical definition, or you could say maybe a moral definition, which is a negative meaning?
No, there is not. What you yourself just read out is the inner attitude. There are human personalities. It is the unity of the human personalities that enables a task to be accomplished. So they are always there. However, when the attitudes change, the attitude of those who need to come together to achieve a definite goal, then that attitude must have been influenced by anger, by hatred, by all sorts of things. And you now see that that which should have brought people together is now pushing them apart. So the individuals, they themselves are individuals, are singularities. However, in working together, that is a united front. Like you find in your so-called football, the goalkeeper is not the man who plays the center forward. It's not the one who does the defending. These are statutory positions that need to be filled. I mean, so along the line, you have the scenario where there are the divisions which are there, which are necessary to have a unity to accomplish a goal. If, however, in those divisions, you now have a negative attitude, instead of that goal being achieved, that now prevents that goal from being achieved. So one has to understand the language the way they have provided it.
Thank you, Gregory, for that, because again, in these references I was looking up, this is, I'll just quote this one. The Bible uses the term division to refer to discord, dissension, lack of unity, especially within Christian community and relationships. So in this, again, Gregory, what I'm seeing is there's a context when you're looking in a particular scenario, I can say like that, then you can see, oh, like you gave the example of football. There are positions. Football, there's a football team, and there are certain positions in the football team, and each position has a particular role, and then they work together, and of course they battle with another team. Exactly the same positions are there, and it's like may the best team win, if I can say like that. That's how they play with each other, and how, but the roles are the same for each position. Each position. The different positions, there's set roles, and they need to work together for them to achieve their goal, which is to win the game. Okay. Now let me pick up something else. So here, another because we're looking at division at the moment. So this is saying from Jesus' perspective. Jesus himself recognized that his teachings would lead to division. Some would accept his message while others would reject it. So now it looks like Jesus is bringing division, or it would say it would lead to division. So I'm sure Jesus didn't come to cause division, Gregory, um, but then it would lead to division. Some would accept his message while others would reject it. So I'm just trying to think, Gregory, this word.
Actually, like I said, is the way the language is presented. The language, or what Jesus brought, is that language of unity. But when you have, because the parable he gave, and when it was said, ask who is my neighbor, and he gave the example of what the neighbor is, you find that that is a typical language of unity. One for all for one, unity of purpose, the support for one another. That is a language of unity. However, the inner attitude of some, they do not they do not accept such. It is the rejection of that which is holistic, which is of benefit. That is what does the splitting. And that is why, that's when you have the divisions. The divisions in the sense that although they are individuals, but they do not wish to accept that which will be beneficial for the whole. They are only seeking for that which will benefit them and only them, maybe also their family. So the context, once it's seen and realized, then it becomes very clear.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for clarifying that point of the inner attitude in any activity, because yes, there's the different roles, like we said in football, which you can say the roles have been divided. To make a team, you need those different roles. So you can see the team is divided into those roles, and there's an aim, to win by scoring more goals than your opponent, and then with according to the way you play, your attitude. I know it always doesn't work out in football that you work hard and even if you're skillful, sometimes you still get beaten. But in the end, let's say over time, the more skillful and the more, if I use the word hard, well, it doesn't always mean hard work, because if you're a master in your trade or position, things can be not so difficult for you. But in any case, there has to be a commitment, there has to be a goal, and working together. I will say that team effort must be there for us to for that team to be successful. So just thinking. There's one more thing from the biblical references, Gregory, I would like to talk about. The word division means two visions. In the Christian life, there is a battle going on for two competing visions. One is God's kingdom, a kingdom of light, and the other is Satan's kingdom, a kingdom of darkness. Whatever God creates, Satan counterfeits. So, Gregory, there we're seeing this division of two, meaning two visions. One is God's kingdom, and the other one is Satan's kingdom. Is that really correct?
No, that is not correct at all. Because all power streams from the Creator that made it possible. At the same time, all that is alive, that makes things possible to be alive, stream from the source of this power. And with the source of this power also swings the wheel that makes it possible. in such a way that things are not done in an arbitrary manner. So all power streams from one source. What then happens, or what has happened, is that you have, when people refer to Lucifer, he wishes to use the same power that streams from out of the Almighty for his own selfish ends. So you'll find that that which Lucifer tries to do can only be done in a temporary manner and not in a permanent manner.
Thanks, Gregory, for clarifying these concepts that people have, let's say, different understandings of what is really there, and you can see how you can come to different conclusions when let's say, the true picture is not clear. And then, of course, there's a danger of going astray with all these different visions or conclusions. So we'll continue our discussion in a moment. I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio. And this is the spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is division and unity. Division and unity. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, division and unity, which is the topic for tonight. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. And after the show, you can listen to a recording of this show again on YouTube. And it's exactly the same way as the live show. Just go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, division and unity. That's the topic for tonight. Of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, I've got some questions from a fellow, you could say, helper in helping us with our topics. And I'm just going to read something here. This is a story referring to the Bible where Jesus I think it seems to be that story about feeding the 5,000, if I remember correctly. So let me see what it says here. Division and unity, are they the opposite ends of the same reality, given that the Christ divided the fishes and the loaves and yet fed a multitude? So let me repeat that. Division and unity, are they the opposite ends of the same reality, given that the Christ divided the fishes and the loaves and yet fed a multitude? If I'm honest, I'm not quite following the question, but I hope you can follow it. Gregory.
Well, first it must be realized that Christ fed the people with the word.
Right.
So that is the key there. Fed the people with the word which he gave. However, along the line, those who had brought bread and some fishes, they shared it among themselves. After all, his message was very clear: love thy neighbor as thyself, one for all and all for one. It's only most natural that you have the scenario where those who had fishes and those who have bread, they shared with others. So it is not, unless people wish to read convoluted intentions in the words of Christ, but his words were very clear from the beginning. There's no confusion about it. Because the next thing will be, what happened to the 5,000? He fed his living word to the spirit of man. And it is the spirit of man, when it resonates with the laws of nature, of creation, that is really alive.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Does it mean, because the story, the way it's written in the Bible, is that there were 5 fishes and 2 loaves, I believe, or might be the other way around, 5 loaves and 2 fishes. I can't remember which way around it was. And these were divided amongst 5,000 people. And then they say there were 12 baskets of bread left at the end, which doesn't add up at all. I mean, how on earth can they do that? And because they think this is a miracle. So it is reported in the Bible, let's say.
Well, it is a miracle in the imaginations of many, but not in the reality of what had happened. Therefore, those who, in their own imagination, considered that Christ would have, from 2 loaves of bread, feed 5,000 people, or from 2 fishes, feed 5,000 people, then they have to, by themselves, examine their imagination. Christ fed the people spiritually. His words, which are in themselves alive, went straight to the spirit for those who opened up and they felt satisfied and were very happy about it. That is all. All other connotations that then got loaves of bread, 2 loaves, and started multiplying it, those ones only arose in the diseased imagination of many.
Thanks for that clarification again, Gregory. What I'm seeing is, Jesus did speak in a metaphorical way, like parables, and maybe the people who have transmitted what he said have not really understood what was said because maybe they were not there, and and they just heard second hand or third hand, and uh, and then completely mixed up the reality with the metaphor. So in fact, the second question, my this question I'm how can I say saying right now are from my colleague. I can say her name is Harriet Jarvis Hoppe, and even she's a poetic person, an artistic person. So even her questions are written in that way. And if you're not tuned into that artistic uh, way, it's possible you won't follow it. So and I must say I have that problem to follow it. So anyway, I will continue with this uh, question. So the second one she put is, could it be that the unity of purpose in this division of provisions, as each shared a portion of what they had brought with them, is how such a multitude each received not only of their renowned fishes and loaves, but also the bread of heaven. So I think I can follow that. Let me repeat that. Could it be that the unity of purpose in the division of provisions, as each shared a portion of what they had brought with them, is how such a multitude each received of not only their renowned fishes and loaves, but also of the bread of heaven?
The bread of heaven remains the living word. Unless you now have many who strive to understand these figures of speech aright. And one may only understand things aright only with the condition that their understanding resonates with the realities in accordance with the laws through which they themselves came into existence, in accordance with the laws through which they themselves continue to live, such that before too long they will attain to that maturity which enables them to understand these same laws of nature or laws of creation so as to be able to interpret it to others. So one has to be very careful in taking these things literally, because you have scenarios in which there are figures of speech which are turned upside down, and it is then called a miracle. The simple example which we gave, where you have a unity of purpose because it's a clear goal, in the case of football, where there are divisions, there are places which need to be filled in order when they work together to achieve a certain goal. And there was a case, the sports of the person who keeps the goal, they are the defenders, they are the strikers. They all work together to achieve a common goal. That is how it is that with the human personality incarnating in the world of matter is the need for the different personalities. These are different personalities, but in working together, that one for all and all for one, the personality who plays music It's not the same as the personalities who does the farming. It's not the same thing as the personality who is in charge of one's health. But in coming together in the unity of purpose, that enables the continuity, the maintenance of the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the individual personalities. And the individual personalities are separate people. But in working together, they exchange. They exchange that which enables them to mature. That is the picture that the individual must take away rather than trying to conjure things in their heads which will never make any sense. And that is why one uses the case of football because that's what many people watch on a daily basis. They can see these things, they can relate to it. Christ never intended to cause any confusion. In fact, his explanations were as simple as possible. But don't forget, there are many who find it very difficult to understand that which is simple. They would first wish to make it very complicated. And then from there, they start tearing it down again. And then maybe they can have an understanding. You can only wish such people well. But what one may say here is that one should become childlike to see these things for what they are, to learn from it, and move on.
Thanks, Gregory, for again explaining this um, words and scenarios that we are looking at. I can see, yes, there's a spiritual meaning and there's the literal meaning or words that we being said, and we must be, let's say, tuned in to whichever one that is the correct, scenario or way something is being expressed. If it's spiritual, like bread of heaven, who can imagine eating bread of heaven when you're in this earth? It doesn't make sense. So it must be something like a symbolic or a metaphoric picture there. So, we should, like we say, use your common sense, even if we know that common sense may not be common, but let's try to strive for that, that we get it clarity about these matters. Now, I'm just looking at the third question. Yes, much as we say, many hands make light work. For example, the division of labor, talents, finances, and spiritual wealth, when working in unity for the greater good of all. I will say that's not really a question, that's a statement. Much as we say, many hands make light work. For example, the division of labor, talents, finances, spiritual wealth, when working in unity for the greater good of all. I think that's a very good, I'm going to say, summary of the concept of unity, working in unity. Anything you'd like to add there, Gregory?
We've already discussed all what you just mentioned, but the question is what is it that is referred to as spiritual wealth?
Okay. That's a good point. Maybe wisdom. What do you think? Wisdom, spiritual wealth. I'm trying to think of what else it can mean, because they don't have money in the spiritual world. It's not a physical world. In case people are not clear what is spiritual and what is the physical, that's the spiritual is not from this earthly world of matter, and we are familiar very much with this world of matter, but then there's this spiritual world, which is, sometimes people use the word heaven, uh, which may not be clear for as many people as well, but is not of the world of the matter that we are familiar with. It's less, and is, you could say, how can we describe this spiritual world, Gregory, for people, that they get this understanding that it's not on this earth, and it's
Well, one was referring to spiritual wealth.
yes, I know.
Okay, I thought you said spiritual
Well,
world.
I did. Okay, I go a little bit off tangent, so let me think. I'm trying to make sense of it myself, and that's why I thought it must mean it cannot be wealth in terms of money, because there is no such thing as money in the spiritual world, because these things, you need money for this earthly activity, but you don't need money in the spiritual world. So the only other thing is the wealth I can think of is something to do with, in quotes, your mind, spiritually wealthy in your mind. So if I can say that way, and the only thing I can come up with is the word wisdom, but maybe there's another term that could give a good picture as well. Um, what about talent? I don't know, spiritual talent and.
One may refer to the virtues
Uh-huh.
as spiritual wealth. At the same time, that word wealth, when it is used, because many are so used to money, they think or they consider money as wealth. But the individual that is well in health, that is wealth which can, which is more than how much money one has. The person who has wisdom in accordance with the laws of nature, not in the arbitrary sense where people try to hide their volitions. When one considers patience, when one considers perseverance, when one considers unflinching love and readiness to serve, these are values. These are wealth values that need considering, which transcends the world of matter and have their roots in spirituality. That means have their roots in the kingdom of the spirit. These are the values which in many cases are never considered, whereas many hold on to money as such. You find that many a time the person who plays an instrument, a simple music, or the person who sings, which songs help to elevate the human personality, to strengthen the human personality, these songs are not considered to be something, they are just ignored. But these are the wealth of the people. Many search for that which they can hold in their hand, material things like gold and silver and coins. But the wealth of the spirit, which one just mentioned, those ones are not considered. Many consider eating so much food as being wealthy. The wealth that comes with good health is not considered until they lose that good health. Maybe then they will start considering that which is of benefit, not only here on earth, but also hereafter.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for bringing that um, these concepts of virtue and values, spiritual virtues and values. Um, and as you said, these are not something that we regularly think about when they talk about wealth. It's always money and not, the only other one is health, which you pointed to. When your health is fine, of course, you don't think about anything about it. But when it's in a bad, seriously ill health, then suddenly that becomes the number one issue that you care about. So um, you can see that how human beings are, they're relaxed or lax even in really looking at things which are important, taking care of things which are really important. Uh, they've made up their own ideas what is really important, and not really see what is the reality, what is important. So yeah, thank you for bringing that out. Um, Now there's another question or point I'm going to read here. It is, and yet we are also coined this adage, divide and conquer. An adage thus far, in the main, born out of misery, greed, lust for power, to mention but just a few of these harbingers of death. When the where is then the unity to be found? Okay, there's two double things, so I just want to stick to one of them. So, and yet we also coined this adage, divide and conquer, an adage thus far in the main born out of misery, greed, lust for power, to mention just a few of these harbingers of death. Where then is unity to be found? So, Gregory, that's a very common with human beings in this world that we live. You know, people, you could say, feel they're, for whatever reason, they have agreed to take from others, or steal is the proper word, and or when try to be conquer the other people, uh, again to take over, steal, you can say, their wealth or their, yeah, I'm going to say that, and then in that, of course, that killing is involved, unfortunately. So, so where then is unity to be found? Yes. So I would say, Gregory, how is it that man has turned to this divide and conquer um, as a adage? Is it their thinking that only the ones who fight the hardest or are strong can win, should rather than everybody can live together?
Problem is that these expressions have come into one's diction, on its societal diction, due to the indolence of the individuals, their lack of understanding of what the laws of creation or of nature, what these laws are, and what they continually point out. And you will find that these expressions abound whenever someone who is weak in character considers that he or she has an advantage over another, then these are the expressions that they used to justify their lack of understanding of these laws of nature, or to make it very clear, their lack of responsibility. With the awakening of the individual, With the spiritual awakening, there lies responsibility. There lies the responsibility of the individual who has been awakened through one experience or the other, which experience would have been guided to this particular individual such that it will help trigger a scenario where himself, in responding to this scenario, builds up the strength, builds up the courage, such that he will know how to adjust to this particular scenario. And in that case, you find that whatever lessons he or she must have learned, the need is there to pass on these lessons to others, to assist others, just as he himself or herself has been assisted. So he or she who receives of the glories, of the blessings from others, whether the others are here on earth or here or not, is immaterial. He or she who receives need to make use of it and share with others. If whatever he or she has received is of benefit that made him glad or that made her very glad, that brought joy and happiness to the individual, it is its responsibility to ensure that in his activities, in his weavings, it should bring joy and happiness to others. But for the individual who is weak, having received joy and happiness, that individual is unable to pass it on to others, or is too weak or unwilling to do that. Then you have that expression which you just read out, to divide and conquer. That word conquer should only be applicable to his own or her own weaknesses. To conquer the weaknesses is to be able to strive away from that which is not of benefit spiritually or even earthly to the individual. So most of these expressions which abound, if those expressions are laced with irresponsibility, then those expressions enables the individual to sink. If, however, those expressions are accomplished with responsibilities in the balance of activities in which the individual knows it has received and strives to make others happy through his activities, just like you have in music, then the reciprocal activity is that joy spreads around, is that happiness spreads around. And just as he himself is able to spread happiness through his activities, there are others who are of the same attitude, who are higher spiritually than he himself, they strive also to communicate or to impress to this particular person, to impress rich, intuitive perceptions, which rich perceptions will bring joy and happiness to the individual because the individual has provided evidence that is reliable in making that which will be of benefit to others, most likely just as you have in music. That is all. The laws of creation, of nature, that is their basic purpose.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for showing that showing how we are meant to be, you can say, rather than the way we are not meant to be. Um, you know, in the language that we use and the way we behave, or in these adages that we come up with, to so-called promote a particular way and thinking that is the right way or successful way. You can see that a lot of false or wrong ideas or concepts have been produced by humanity, which are leading to destruction, and rather than harmony and upliftment of humanity. A lot of, you could say, negative and wrong ideas. So thank you for that. Now, dear listeners, I want to let you know you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you want to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is division and unity. Division and unity. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is division and unity. And after the show, you can listen to the recording of this show again on YouTube, exactly the same way. Go to the youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is division and unity. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows as well, other shows, again on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO .fm / Radio 1. That's the number 1. Now, let me just see if I've got something more about this. Okay. Yes, again from my colleague, I've got another. I don't know if this is a question or statement. Let me read this out. Can it be? Can it be that throughout the world, just as they are centers of both thought and deed, building up with integrity, compassion, and generosity of spirit towards their fellow humankind, so too are their centers both of thoughts and deeds thriving and continually being nourished by only desiring division at any cost? And if so, how does this work? So let me read that again. Can it be that throughout the world, just as there are centers of both thought and deed, building up with integrity, compassion, and generosity of spirit towards their fellow humankind, so too are their centers of both thoughts and deeds, thriving and continually being nourished by only desiring division at any cost? And if so, how does this work?
Is that a question or a
Yes,
comment?
it's a question. So there's the person is saying, that's Mrs. Harriet Jarvis Hoppe, who's written this question. She's saying that there are centers in the world where there's thought and deed. You could say working for the good or for upbuilding of humanity, and there are also centers of thoughts and deeds which are continually being nourished by desiring division. Division, we mean in a negative sense, at any cost. And if so, this is like a follow-up from the last one. If so, how does it work? So I think, Gregory, the question is, how do thoughts and deeds work?
Although partially, that answer has been provided in the example that was given, just as the individual here strives to be of benefit to others that are perceptible to him or her, there are others who are not in the flesh, who strive to impress many a blessing. This impression of many a blessing is an activity in accordance with the laws of creation. One of it is the attraction of homogeneity, the attraction of homogeneity in which one has that which is homogeneous come together or coming together, and for one who resonates with such thought forms, with such intuitions, one is able to draw strength from that and make use of it for the benefit of others. In the same manner, in a negative way, those who harbor distrust, those who harbor hatred, these are thoughts, these are entities that has emanated from the individual who created these thought forms, these intuitions that form demons in accordance with the attraction of homogeneity, they come together where, strictly speaking, they punish for those who belong to that group, they punish themselves and also look out for those people who harbor hatred so they can venge. That is where vengeance comes in. They can venge on such people since they enjoy seeing disunity, since they enjoy separation, since they enjoy the wickedness, because that's what makes them tick. So you find that, yes, these have come into existence through the ill-considered activities of man. That is why you now have these centers. But as soon as the individual turn away and stop feeding these centers, then you have these centers will dry up because there are no streams to beef them up. And therefore, those thoughts of kindness, of support, those are the thoughts which reach the individual who resonate with it. So all these have only come into being through the use or the misuse of power that streams through in creation.
Thanks again, Gregory, for giving a picture of what these centers of thoughts or how they work, let's say, uh, you know, in different ways. You could say with our dark thoughts and with our good thoughts, there's different, although they're all thoughts, but the outcome, the what we put in and what comes out, you can say obviously are different. And I just want to say to maybe people who are hearing these words centers, it might be a difficult concept to recognize or appreciate, that this is something we're talking not on this earth. That's thought centers. This is something, let's say, in the next world, if I can say that way, where we see things visibly that we are very familiar with, but there are things happening in the next world, you can say also, just like we are talking now on the radio. We don't see the radio wave or frequency, but we know it's something's happening for us to communicate. So you can imagine a thought also, invisible as it is, it also has a form. And the way it works, you can imagine how radio waves work. Something similar is happening. And so there are, you could say, power centers where they become strong, and then they reach a certain, you could say, mature level where they manifest out. And so all these things I would say are much better explained in the Grail Message, because they require quite a bit of understanding. So I all recommend that people pick up the Grail Message to get the real picture for themselves. Okay, now Gregory, I wanted to look at some examples of this division in terms of the political world or in the world, the earth that we see. So I found like 3 different cases or examples. One is not maybe everybody's familiar with, but there was a country called Czechoslovakia, which was made up of two peoples, Czech and the Slovaks. And then I can't remember exactly when, uh, but not too long ago, let's say in 20, 30 years, definitely, this country broke itself into Czech Republic and Slovakia, so the independent countries, rather than one country of Czechoslovakia. And it seems to happen very peacefully. You know, it was hardly in the news, and then you see they exist. I know there are small countries, not some big name country in Europe, Czech Republic and Slovakia. However, as I say, if there was some serious issue, surely it would be in the world news. And as I say, that is a country which was one country for one some time back, and it's been split into two, and it has seemed to have worked in a harmonious division, if you can call it like that. Then, in contrast, we have India, when it was at the time of the British colony, broken into two. So that, let's call it British India at that time, and it was split into Pakistan and India in 1947. There was one unfortunate piece of that India which was left unresolved, which is the state of Kashmir, and still unfortunately under that suffering, because it was never made totally either independent country or just left on its own, and then there was a dispute about between India and Pakistan who should have it. So of course they fought about it. So the point I'm trying to make here, there was another division there, and due to this unresolved matter, it might not be just the one matter, but there has been this fights over some time, many years. So that's another case and of division, you can say. And then there's another one, which is Israel, which was made in 1948 by breaking up Palestine. In that one, and it was even, let's say, more terrible situation, which led to a lot of animosity between the peoples there. In fact, people came in from outside, even you can say, of that world of Palestine, and it was even further complicated with influence from the outside world, with different countries involved, with their own interests. So that one, unfortunately, we hear that in the news constantly, that they're fighting and having war. So my point is, this word division, it can result in peaceful separation, as we use that word, into two parts. It can be half-baked and then lead into partial peace and partial warfare. And then the third one, where it is completely done without any cooperation of the people on the ground, or let's say at least one set of people maybe, and then so the other, they're almost basically two parties virtually hating each other, with outside interference also looking there, taking part there. So Gregory, what I want to ask you on this matter is, how can one, this is similar to what we were saying earlier, can one achieve peace in these scenarios if one party or both party refuse to cooperate to benefit each other mutually? Because that's where, and why is this that they cannot work together? That's what we've been talking about, working together. So division doesn't mean that there has to be war and fighting. It just, like we have seen it in the Czech Republic broken into Czechoslovakia broken into Czech Republic and Slovakia. They are not fighting each other. They are able to live together, separately. But these other ones, we see there seems to be some big issue which doesn't allow them to live together in harmony. What can be the, how can I say, the reason why they are not able to live, cooperate and benefit each other mutually?
Basically, immaturity. If you take the case where Jerusalem is mentioned, and both are looking at themselves at the dusty piece of land or piece of property. The Jerusalem which is referred to is in the precinct of the paradise of man, where those who exist there exist in peace and harmony, where there are no tribes, where everyone, their volition, their activities is all for one and one for all. As what happens here on earth, the great immaturity which many harbor in their hearts is the cause of all these problems. Whatever country it is or whatever space it is, the great and gross immaturity. Many exhibit their weaknesses by their activities. They exhibit what they stand for now. One cannot predict for them how they will respond to future challenges. But for those who have that goal of nobility, many will already know that meaningful progress in spirit can only be accomplished when there is peace and harmony amongst those who have come to share the earth. After all of them who are arguing and fighting, how much of the piece of land do they take along when they depart? Nothing. Only the maturity or the immaturity which they have cultivated, that's what they take along. And the disharmony doesn't stop there. In accordance with the laws of creation, depending on the confusion and wickedness of their activities, they will all be attracted together towards the same place. They will be accumulated together where they have to experience that which they so much favored in dishing out to others. Maybe then they might wake up. So, if one is searching for justice amongst the evil ways of men, you will not find it because it lacks justice, it lacks love. For strictly speaking, love and justice are one, but they themselves cannot say it. And they claim rights. None of this individual owns even the body which has been granted him to experience, not to talk of the piece of land which before long they will leave behind. The lack of maturity, the lack of consideration for others. But you yourself need to examine these things very carefully and see where things lead. For those who are strong enough in spirit, Let them examine and weigh the work in the light of truth. In that work, they are able to draw strength through the clarification of many things. They are able to draw strength in spirit, which brings peace and contentment.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for again showing, let's say, how humanity stands and how it's supposed to be striving. So many, let's say, problems that we face are just self-made because of lack of genuine, living as brother and sister of the human family, rather than our own, you could say, selfish identity. We are this and we are that, and so we can't get on because of this and that, rather than the basic human being that we all are, and respecting each other. Because there are differences, there are different religions, there are different peoples, cultures. Yes, you don't have to convert one culture to another culture or religion to another religion, but you can respect, even if they are different from what you are. So this type of, how can I say, difficult relationship with a fellow human being is, hopefully we can, well, I don't know if war will be over eventually, or it will be constant battle between humanity, amongst humanity. This choice, the choice is always your own choice. So let's see what happens there. So thank you for that, Gregory. Dear listeners, I want to let you know you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is division and unity. Division and unity. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And you can listen to us also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and there you can type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is division and unity. After the show, you can listen to us a recording of the show again on youtube.com, with exactly the same words in the search box, which is Bless Radio 1 space Grail Message space Division and Unity. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our other previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's Zeno dot FM / Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, there's another concept people think about unity, which is in marriage. Now, they say, or let's say, one of the benefit, maybe not I should use the word benefit, but one of the principles or concepts, or well, let me say benefit because I can't think of any other word right now, which is being in a marriage, is there's increased happiness, deeper emotional connection, improved communication. This is something I was doing research. I'm not sure this is completely spiritual words, but in any case, face challenges together, the ability to face challenges together, enhancing the couple's shared purpose, sense of belonging, and fostering a more fulfilling relationship. So I could say, let me repeat that. The benefits of marriage is, there said there are numerous benefits: increased happiness, deeper emotional connection, improved communication, ability to face challenges together, couples shared purpose, sense of belonging, and fostering a more fulfilling relationship. So what I'm seeing there, Gregory, these are the benefits. So is it, let me say, from maybe the spiritual point of view, is it a must to be married or get married to have these benefits?
Thanks for this particular question. First, what you yourself just read out are only academic. Marriage itself is a union. That in itself is a fact. In the union in which both parties need to work together to cultivate that which you read out. The typical example that is given is that of football. In the case in which there is someone that keeps the goal, there is someone that is either a defender or a striker. In working together, of course, there are challenges. It is when these challenges are understood aright and a path hewn that the individual, the stakeholders must follow, only in such do you have the reciprocal activity of joy and happiness belonging to them. If there is no working together in thoughts, in deeds, or in intuition, then there is disconnection. And if there is disconnection in which you have people living their own separate ways, one may not call that a union or a beneficial union or a marriage. So, must one get married? The question should be turned around or reframed. Here on earth, does the individual wish to partner with another such that having a goal, a spiritual goal or a noble goal or whatever the goal is, to work together to achieve that particular goal? If yes, then marriage is for them, because in that case, they will cultivate that which is necessary. The cultivation of these skills, of these talents to be able to achieve a specific goal, that cultivation is not for the faint-hearted, because the challenge remains that one of the either party may be strong in a period and may be weak in another period. So there is the need to support in whatever the scenario is. So it is not a case where when everything seems to be going well, there is Hosanna. And when challenges come, everybody runs away. You do not solve a problem or you do not tackle a challenge in that particular way. So, must one get into marriage? First, the individual must reflect intuitively and consider very carefully what marriage is, which is basically a union of two individuals that need to tackle a particular challenge to arrive at a specific goal. Simple it is, but the inner attitude of the individuals that are stakeholders, it is the inner attitude that determines the success or failure.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for giving the, I would say, the real meaning of marriage and, and now the role. Everything, as you say, is our inner attitude towards the goal that produces the result, you can say, rather than, oh, there's a structure called marriage, and let's get married and we'll be happy, or whatever people think it means. There's the inner attitude that needs to be taken as a foundation, and then the structure is a way to fulfill it. Happiness, does it mean? Of course, it doesn't mean you can only be happy through marriage. In fact, my next question is about when the marriage breaks down. Then you can say in that case, marriage didn't bring happiness. You see, so no, there's not a structure, but it's the attitude that you adopt that can result in this. Your results that you get. So let me go to this question then, Gregory. Now, we talked about union in marriage there. but also we know sometime and the marriage doesn't work out. They and there are children involved in that in those cases, like a family, and in young children would then have to be maybe if there's a young children involved, they would be taken normally by one parent. Usually, let's say, well, it can be both in a way, but joint custody, they say, but usually it's one of them. And that means the children now are, you could say, suffering, being, let's say, not having, being in a family anymore, or at least not in a family together. Um, so, my question on that, Gregory, is divorce wrong when children are involved? Is it better to stay together for the sake of the children? Because that
Again,
means unity, trying to keep unity.
this is the answer to this depends on the inner attitude of those that are involved. So, for one who is external, that is not involved, he or she may not understand what made such a scenario untenable. Untenable, that means for the continuity. If, however, you have that the inner attitude of the individuals lack the strength to tackle a challenge, then you find that the center cannot hold. Most of the time, the individuals must be honest with themselves. If these individuals are not suffering from lack of finance, they're not suffering from bad health, and they strive to grasp the challenges of the other, then you will find that there will be patience and perseverance. As you will find in many cases, there is a lack of patience, there is a lack of perseverance, which are the virtues that are supposed to be cultivated. In that case, you find that that which is supposed to weld the people together to walk in the same direction, that is no more there. And then you, like you mentioned, you have the case of the children. It takes two to tango. Harmony is not only from one tone. Harmony arises from more than one tone. One thing has to harmonize with the other. However, these things have to be cultivated. To cultivate something does not mean just to jump into it and everything is all right. Many a farmer who goes to the farm to cultivate his crops first have to pick out the seeds, have to tend the seeds, have to plant the seed, have to nurture the seeds so that it grows, and even in the process of growth, have to pay so much attention, and thereafter, once the seeds have come to fruition, still have to, in the case of grains, have to harvest them and have to clean them up. It is a task. If one looks at the case of so-called football, many may just consider it, they think it's easy. Put them in the field and let them play. The training which is involved, would one say that he is a defender and sees that the goalkeeper, for one reason or the other, was unable to do things and then kept quiet so that a goal would be scored on their side? The defender would do everything he can to make sure that they do not lose, that there's no score against them. The same thing will happen to the goalkeeper. That inner attitude of can do, supporting one another in times of challenges, which can happen at any time, that is what is needed in the case of the cultivation of that which is of benefit to all parties. It is not as difficult as many think. It is not difficult at all as long as the inner attitude of the participants are noble. Because in that case, they will already have permeated their environment that they can strive after that which is noble. Strive after that in their intuitions. Many a time, that which has been intuitively perceived is not easily transferable to one's thoughts, because the thoughts are fixed upon the earth and the razzmatazz which goes around. Many a time, one's noble thoughts are not easily transferable to deeds, which deeds are perceptible using the five senses. Therefore, it is the tasks of those who come together to find a way to actualize these things. That is a task which is so noble. It doesn't mean that when two people, in quotes, are married, that all challenges flee away from them such that they become like hothouse plants. It is the marriage that has withered or that has weathered the challenges, come rain, come shine. That is the one that is strong enough and forms like a what's like that presents a strong battlefront to all challenges. So At the same time, for those who claim to be religious, many should not forget the Ten Commandments, which says, honor fatherhood, of honor father and mother. That commandment was given not straight to children, but to parents. For parents, in facing the challenges, they will form a firewall through which they can withstand whatever comes their way and become successful in their striving after that which is noble.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this, how can I say, answer to question about divorce with children, where every particular case can be different, and to give just a stock answer or one answer, it wouldn't be right, because it will not be applicable to every case. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, we have now come to the end of our show tonight on the topic of division and unity, and I hope you have enjoyed the discussion. I would like to read now from the foreword of the Grail Message, which is titled For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aid for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all the obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abdrushim. Dear listeners, if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, Is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Good night.